Hi, this is Shira Rubinoff. I'm here with David Bowker, Vice President, Security Practice Lead at Pan Communications. David, pleasure to be with you here today.
Likewise, Shira, I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thank you. So, David, we talk a lot in the cybersecurity world and really in all organizations that communication seems to be an issue when we're talking about updated information, real time information, how organizations or within the companies communicate one to the other. So, what would you say are some of the issues communications teams are facing related specifically to cybersecurity?
Well, that's a great question. I think cybersecurity has really presented a unique set of challenges to businesses for decades now. And it really has been an industry where knowing what is happening and expecting the unexpected are baked into the overall processes and lens on the industry from a communication standpoint. So more so than other industries, I also know that this industry is impacted heavily by breaking news. There are security incidents that happen constantly that impact both companies of all types and cybersecurity vendors themselves. So it's really finding a way to be prepared for those things, know what's happening, and also be able to move quickly to respond appropriately while also keeping their strategic goals in mind and moving the ball forward as part of the overall communications process.
Well, I think you really hit the nail on the head with those specific things, saying things are changing rapidly. Updated real time information is critical. How do we get that over to the right people? How are we able to interconnect and really communicate on the level that's needed in today's cybersecurity world? So that's super important. And would you say there are recent changes related to cybersecurity taking place that are impacting communications, planning, and the processes?
There really are. And I think change is constant. I think the expectation is that threats are constantly increasing. The volume of information, changing attacks, things like changing legislation and requirements of companies. It is an industry of constant change, and the change tends to be in the direction of more to respond to, more to be distracted by in some cases, and more to figure out how to keep track of to make sure that you're balancing it appropriately for your business.
So you'd say those are some of the ways the companies are dealing with these issues around communications. Is there anything that sticks out more than the others in terms of, you know what, this is the pivotal space that we really need to focus on when it comes to communication?
I think that the ability to see what is happening in real time, it's something that companies and communications teams need. They need to have that capability themselves or through a partner to be able to parse the vast amount of information that's traveling across the industry and really figure out what's important to them and where they need to be part of the conversation or be conscious of their own brand in it. So that's a constant priority to all the companies that I know that I speak to and we speak to as a company at Pan.
Well, I like the fact that you highlighted something that's important to them. I think visibility and there's no one size fits all when it comes to really anything. I think the more tailored the solution and the more tailored the information, a company can decide what is the most important thing to them with the visibility. So that's critical. So I love that you highlighted that. And there's been much discussion recently about faster disclosure requirements for security instances, really with the SEC leading some of the proposed regulations. So what impact do you see these developments having across our organizations and cybersecurity world?
This is something that we're really watching closely. And it's something that is part of a lot of conversations that we're having with companies of all types. I recently participated in a roundtable that involved heads of communication from all different types of businesses, financial services. There were some cybersecurity companies, and there were publishing companies as well. And I think the one constant that was happening between them is they're required to be so in tune with what's going on with cybersecurity. And in some cases, they said that they're speaking to their security teams as much as they're speaking to the media. It really is baked that much into their process. And I think what's going on with the disclosure requirements that you mentioned for the SEC, it really is, it's kind of a wake up call for companies that, there have been cases of breaches that have, there've been varying disclosure timelines and things like that. what we're looking at is discussion of public companies in the event of what's classified as a material incident, having to disclose it within 4 days. So with that happening, it really emphasizes the need for businesses to have things buttoned up. And it's not something that you figure out when it happens. There needs to be really solid advanced crisis planning. There needs to be the ability, again, to see what's going on. In the event that something is coming up related to their brand, when a news cycle starts related to a breach that may be impacting them or a partner. So it really is like there's a speed element of what's going on related to cybersecurity that it's important for cybersecurity vendors, but it really is impacting companies of all types.
Certainly. And as you said, in terms of this communication stuff, it's really taking a page in the book in cybersecurity of being proactive as well as reactive in their posture as a communication tool. It's not just, let's figure out what to do after. How do we position ourselves in a proactive format so that we're set in the best pace possible and be able to take the right types of movements that are needed in order to keep us secure and cover what we need to do in terms of communications with organizations. So that's incredible and very, very important. I understand that PAN recently conducted some research on major breaking cybersecurity news events to explore how breaking news emerges and travels across communications channels. What did this information show? What did this report tell us?
Yeah, we did. And it was a really interesting exercise for us. As part of the process, we conduct monitoring using a variety of tools, be it social networks, traditional media monitoring, a variety of sources. And what we did is we did an in-depth look at some of the major incidents that have happened over the last 18 months, really big volume driving incidents of conversation and coverage to see what the news cycle looked like for them across a period of time. That basically we tried to look at least across a multiple month timeline. And like some examples are SolarWinds, Colonial Pipeline, Blog for Shell. But there are incidents that are familiar to the security community and the public at large and really had a broad impact. And one of I'd say like the top most interesting thing is that it really is still for incidents like that, where you see a massive amount of coverage that can spread over a period of time. The concentration of the conversation is within 24 to 48 hours is where the vast majority of the coverage is happening. So if we think about that from impacted companies from a cybersecurity vendor perspective who have their subject matter experts and are weighing whether or not to weigh in on the conversation, it reinforces the need to move quickly because the conversation is established early on and in massive volume. So it really is, you really do need to be prepared for that and have a process in place.
Well, certainly. And that also will show who are the leaders in these points of contention. What is going on? Who are the ones that are speaking up that we can trust, that we go to for the real information? And getting the information that you're talking about is critical for organizations, as you described. So what communications team, what can they do now? What can they do right now to make sure that they're prepared, besides the obvious?
Well, first, I think the ability to see what's happening as it's developing is crucial. The conversations happen in real time and they develop, as we've been saying, incredibly quickly. So they need to be able to see and have the resources in place and the processes in place to be able to see these things and make informed decisions quickly. And that's something that we really emphasize with the clients and companies that we're talking to as part of this conversation is they're struggling with this, is really finding the right way for them to get the real-time visibility and know the strategic conversations that they should be part of. And it really does require up to the moment intelligence to be able to do that.
Well, one thing we didn't mention is trust and the trust factor, and that's a critical element in the cybersecurity community. And we talk about trust, it's understanding where's the information coming from, who's talking about it, how fast can we get it, but is it reliable? Can we verify it? And what you're talking about is literally checking off all those boxes, which I think is a very critical component when it comes to the level of trust that is needed, not only in the cybersecurity community, but across communities at large. And Dave, any other elements or any other thoughts you'd like to share with our audience around this?
Yes, I think that visibility is a priority. And one of the things that we have done at PAN is we've developed a set of tools and processes that basically enable our clients to get this insight. A major development for us is we're making some of this information available. So we are going to be introducing a resource that we're calling the Cyber Pulse, that we developed in partnership with a digital monitoring company called NetBase. And it's a real-time dashboard that basically shows you the conversation in real time around cybersecurity. And we think this is incredibly valuable as a resource or a first stop for basically anyone who's interested in seeing what's happening right now related to cybersecurity. It includes the top authors, where the conversations are coming from geographically, what the volume is, and what the topics are that are resonating most at a given moment with a 15-minute refresh rate. So you really get a real-time snapshot of what's happening. And it's a great first stop for just being able to see and make a decision anytime you're interested.
Well, I think that's great points. And at the hyper speed that we're all moving today, getting information at the time it's happening, to understand where it's coming from, that it's reliable, that it's trustworthy, so we can move at the speed that we're used to moving with all the multitasking and areas we're pulled in to really make informed decisions and take things forward. So that's really important. Dave, such a pleasure speaking with you today. And thank you for sharing this valuable information with our audience.
Likewise, Shira. Thank you very much.
Thank you.